Welcome back to another fishing adventure, folks. It's early morning and I'm out here going to use this inline underwater cam today. Hopefully catch some carp biting on a pop-up rig. This is going to be vanilla tiger nuts for the hook bait, and I'm going to do one tiger nut and one piece of cork, and I'm just going to trim down this cork. Cut corners off a little bit. This is just a piece of a wine cork that I cut up. I'm just going to trim it down so it's about the same size as the tiger nut. And I'm going to go ahead and dip that in the vanilla flavoring just for fun. Put the piece of cork on the baiting needle first, and then the tiger nut goes on next, just like such. And then they both go on the hair, just like such. Bait stop through the loop and pull down, just like such. Now that's a little farther away from the hook that I like, and the thing that I do with hair rigs, if I want it closer or farther away, I can just wrap it around the shank of the hook once or twice, and that brings it closer to the hook. That's why I make my hair rigs just a little bit longer than I think I'm going to need for the short baits, and that way I can just, if I want it closer to the hook, I can just wrap it around the shank just once or twice. That looks nice to me. The pack bait is a mix of oats and sweet feed and a can of cream corn and vanilla. I'm just doing my normal bottom fishing method feeder rig that I usually do. Nothing special as far as the rig is required to use this camera. And because this is a pop-up rig, I am going to tuck the hook in, because I found, normally I wouldn't do that, but I'm using this camera on this one, and I found that sometimes this hook, with the weight of this camera, it just flies weird through the air. Sometimes the hook makes its way up above the camera and gets tangled, so that worked pretty good last time. We'll see if it does again. I think one of the keys to getting the best footage from these underwater cameras is to remember to turn it on before you cast it out. And the other two baits are just going to be the straight up tiger nuts on the bottom, no pop-ups. Only rig with pop-up is going to be the camera rig today. And this camera rig is going to be the one in the middle, straight out from me here. Hopefully there's no tangled stuff out there. Boom. Alright, it's on the bottom. I try to keep tension on the line as it's falling to the bottom, just to hopefully just keep that line straight, prevent any slack and tangling. So now I'm just going to give it a little tug, just like that, just to hopefully straighten it out, maybe get the camera pointed in the right direction. I can't see what's going on down there. It has no communication with my phone while it's out in the water, so it's just kind of you fish with it, and you get to find out what you captured later. So I just realized that I forgot to put a split shot on that pop-up rig. Normally I put a split shot kind of on the hook link, kind of just above the hook, just so that bait will only be popped up maybe an inch or two up off the bottom, but it's probably that hook link is probably about 4 inches long, and so that thing is probably floating about 4 inches off the bottom right now. I think I'm just gonna leave it for, I don't know, a little while, and because that could be a fun experiment too, I guess. So leave it for a little while I get these other baits here rigged up and casted out, and I'll reel it back in, put a split shot on, I suppose. And for all I know, there's a turtle chowing down on my bait right now, and could care less about a tiger nut. He's just eating the oats. Who knows? Now the carp are spawning here at this lake. When I saw that as soon as I pulled up, and almost turned around and went home. But then I noticed that there's some other carp that are just doing their normal morning stuff, jumping, stuff like that. So just because the carp are spawning doesn't mean that they're all spawning. Thought it was worth a try. I drove all the way here. It's a beautiful morning. So I want to take a minute here to just talk about some of the stuff that I was seeing here with this underwater footage. All this stuff you're about to see here in the next minute or so happened within the first like 15 minutes of this bait being in the water. And there's a pattern I kept noticing over and over again with both the carp and the catfish as they swim up to the bait. They pay absolutely no attention to the floating hook bait up there. They could care less about that. Most of the time they're hovering real close to the bottom there, and they just go right up to that pack bait, take a bite of that, and swim off. These fish are used to feeding on the bottom. Their main food sources are found on the bottom, and as they're coming up, they're grazing the bottom until they come up to that pack bait, and they'll go ahead and take a piece of that pack bait and just have no interest in that thing that's floating 3 inches above it. And here a fish like bumps into the line or the camera or something and kind of knocks it into what ends up being an actual better angle to view this from. So thank you to that fish. I mean, I think the idea that a pop-up bait makes it easier for a carp to eat the bait, I don't think it needs to be easier for a carp to eat the bait. They're used to finding things on the bottom. That's where the majority of their food comes from. Now, like I said, this is a little bit higher off the bottom than I originally intended. Remember, I said I forgot to put that split shot on this rig. So it is hanging about probably 2 inches higher off the bottom than is intended. And I'm going to, in a minute here, I'm going to reel it in and apply that split shot. And then I'll run a second test of where the bait is just only about an inch or so off the bottom, and you'll see how that pans out. But I think it's just really astounding of how many catfish and carp were just swimming by this bait, checking it out. Amazing how many fish are just swimming around here bumping into the bait. And after about 15 minutes, the pack bait is probably 98% gone, and the catfish are still there cleaning it up a little bit. And even as I'm reeling it in to rebait, there are still fish around there searching around for the little bits. Really astounding how many fish are down there munching up that pack bait. I was just rebaiting from a lost fish on the other line. This is not the camera rod either. This is my second bite now. Both rods have gone off except for the camera rod. It's a catfish. I think it's a catfish. It could be a tiny carp, I guess. Oh, it is a carp. It's a small one. That's a good sign. I had a feeling they weren't all spawning. There's lots of weeds here that are in the water now. Last time I fished here, I was fishing down in front of those weeds. The water has risen at least a couple of feet in the last couple of weeks. Oh, he's up here close. Okay. Yeah, this is a spawning fish for sure. He's all rough on his head here on the gill plate. That's a sign that this is a male spawning. I don't know if he's maybe done spawning or just, you know, they eat sometimes during the spawn too, just not as much. But it's good to know at least there's some fish to catch here today. That's 15 minutes and I've had bites on both my rods that are the bottom baits, and the pop-up rod is just sitting there with nothing. There he goes. I'm gonna go ahead and get this one casted back out, and then I'll reel in that camera bait and put that split shot on. Alright, bring it in. I'm gonna reel fast. Nice thing about this camera is those fins on it, as soon as you start reeling, it comes all the way to the surface and just skates across the surface all the way back. So that's nice. It doesn't get tangled on the way back. So yeah, I'm just going to take a tiny, tiny split shot. It doesn't take much weight. And just put it on the line. Just pinch it on the line just, I don't know, half an inch above the hook. And then so it'll be popped up like that. You'll see it. Okay, it's on the bottom. Get a little tug. That's it. Yes, ideally I would download the video footage in between casts just to assure that I don't, you know, if the camera gets snagged and lost, then I don't lose the footage. But I tried that last time, and the thing is that there's no removable memory on this thing. It transfers the video files wirelessly to your phone, and that eats up the battery. By doing that, it made the battery life significantly shorter than what is advertised, and I'm certain that that's why. It's because I was transferring video files while I was using it, and so I wanted to get the maximum recording time today, so I'm not going to look at any of the files until after I'm done today. We'll see how that goes. So on the second cast with the split shot on there, as you can see, the hook bait is sitting much lower than the previous casts, and it's just barely above the pack bait pile there, probably about 2 inches off the bottom. And it took a few minutes for the catfish to find this, and while I did notice there were a few more instances of the hook bait getting some attention. A few of the catfish tried to suck the hook bait in, but their mouths are just too small to get hooked on that rig there. These are little tiny catfish that are, you know, less than a pound. But it looks like that little catfish might have got hooked a little bit or something, because he turned things over and kind of messed up my shot here. There's a piece of debris kind of blocking much of the camera shot here for a while, but I can still see the hook bait there, so we can see when fish might mouth the hook bait. But this goes on for several minutes. As you can see, lots of catfish and carp come in. Some of them do mouth the hook bait, but don't actually get hooked. The overwhelming majority of action is happening on the bottom where the pack bait is. I mean, there really was kind of a feeding frenzy going on here with all different kinds of fish, catfish and carp, even some bluegill made an appearance. And, you know, they were really kicking up some dust there, and it was obvious that they were attacking the bottom, because that's where the majority of the bait is. And I can't help but think that if those tiger nuts were laying on the bottom instead of floating 2 inches above, that they probably would have gotten sucked up by one of those fish and gotten hooked. Obviously, there's no way to know that for sure, but it kind of seems like that's what would have happened. So after several minutes, and I can't really tell for sure, but I assume most of the pack bait is gone, then a carp did finally come in and suck in that hook bait and get hooked. It was only hooked for a couple seconds. It probably just wasn't hooked very well. That fish didn't get caught. Here's what happened on the bank. Another bite on this one. There's carp jumping everywhere. Alright, fish on. Feels weird. I think it's a catfish, but that's what I thought the last time. It was just a small carp. Let's see. Oh, that's a bite on the camera rod. That's a bite on the camera rod. I gotta check that. That might just be a nuisance fish pulling on the line. Yeah, I think that was just a bluegill or something nipping at the line. Been having that a lot this morning. Lots of bluegills swimming around, or green sunfish. I don't know what they are. Little panfish nipping at the line. What do I got here? Yeah, this is a catfish. No surprise there. Lots of little stalker catfish in this pond. See ya. Well, let's see. I guess I'll see what happened with this. Something pulled on it, and I'm pretty sure it was a bass or a sunfish just grabbing on the line. But it probably did disrupt the way my rig was laying on the bottom. I'm gonna go ahead and bring it in. Well, that's tangled like that. I wonder if something was messing with the hook bait. Camera's still running. There's carp jumping all over the place on this side of the lake. There's got to be a bunch of them that are feeding. I'm gonna get a little water temp just for curiosity's sake. After spawn, I really don't really care about water temp very much until the fall again. Well, it's still only 67, so yeah, looks like spawning fish are just getting started here, I think. Definitely catfish. Based on what I've seen on the camera, Last time I used it, the catfish are pretty hungry and pretty aggressive. They start swarming the bait as soon as it hits the water, really. Yeah, another catfish. I might cast it to a different spot. Ooh, he came off. Fish on. Yeah, another kitty cat. This will probably be the last catfish I show you. I've caught a few more. Okay, that's real. And that's a carp. Oh, it drags too tight. Tighten it up to cast out farther, and then I forgot to loosen it. That's definitely a carp. Nice. This is not the camera rod though. Camera rod's over there. Oh no. This fish is trying to get into my camera rod line though. That would suck. He's trying to get into there. I gotta go get him. He's going over here. Come on, mirror carp. That's what I'm hoping for. Hopefully there's something interesting happening on the camera rod. I haven't had any actual bites. Yeah, it's a good fish. Come on in here. Oh, come back. Come back. Oh. The water clarity at this place has diminished quite a bit over the last couple weeks. Used to be very clear, but I think there's some algae bloom and these warmer temps that we've been getting. Okay. Oh, jumped right out. That was pretty cool, actually. Yeah, he's got a little bit of roughness on the gill plate there, not much. Yeah, I think this is a pre-spawn carp still. I don't think they've spawned yet. Just the beginnings of some roughness on the gill plate. The reason they do that, they get rough on the gill plate here so that they can swim up next to a female fish and like ride right beside her, and they just follow the female fish around and stick right to them the best they can. Yeah, that's the way they do it. But, that's cool. That's cool. Another fish on the bank. Back in the water. He's really got that dorsal fin propped up. Let's see if he can find his way out of the net there. He's swimming down, which I get it. That's his natural instinct to do. But he needs to swim up to get out of the net. Did he get out? No, he's still in the net. Oh, he keeps swimming down. Swimming down. Get your nose out of there. There you go. See ya. So, I don't know, both of those carp today have come on the bottom bait. Just the sinking bait. Tiger nuts. Nothing on the pop-up. I don't necessarily think that's conclusively the reason or anything like that. Could just be chance, coincidence. And really the only way to test that would be have two rigs side by side, like within like 6 inches of each other. Maybe like a pay lake rig, like some of those pay lake guys do. They have two hook links just like this, and they could have one with a pop-up and one without. You know, that would be a closer test, but then just chance and coincidence has a factor in that too, even. I think a lot of these fine details in the rig and the bait presentation is a lot of, in my opinion, it's just splitting hairs. I don't think one particular thing makes a huge difference, and I don't know, I think sometimes people forget about the fact that the carp are evolved to eat stuff that's laying on the bottom. That's the way they're used to eating. That's the way their mouths are made to pick things up off the bottom. So it's not like it's difficult for them to pick something up off the bottom. I don't know. And a pop-up bait definitely does look more unnatural laying on the bottom like that. That's not natural at all for a piece of food to be floating 2 inches off the bottom. I'm gonna do one more bait up with the pop-up hook bait. I've caught fish at all 3 positions. I've been moving this camera bait, kind of rotating through the rods, and I've caught fish at all 3 spots, but all the fish have come on the bottom bait, and nothing has eaten the pop-up yet. So I'm gonna give it another half an hour, and then if I don't catch anything on that, I'm gonna switch it over to a bottom bait. Not the camera rod again. This is definitely a carp. Yeah, that or a big catfish, but I think it's a carp. Oh, he's gonna get in the weeds right here. That's a good fish. Oh, almost. Well, that's 3 carp and 3 catfish, all on the bottom baits. The camera rod with the pop-up has not been touched by anything. I think I'm gonna reel that in the camera rod and put on another bottom bait. This fish does have rough gill plates. He's got some, I don't know, looks like that could be from spawning. I don't know. He looks a little bit beat up, but I don't know what's going on. Spawning's a tough time in nature, huh? Back in the water. Yeah, he just wants to swim down. There you go. See ya. Gotta be getting close to the end of the battery life on this camera. It's been about 2 hours since I turned it on. Just gonna go ahead and get rid of that cork and grab just a regular tiger nut. It'd be interesting to see if any fish took a look at that pop-up bait or not. Again, right now at this moment I really have no idea what's been happening under the water, so and get that split shot off of there too. That's going to be the new bait on the camera rod, just 2 tiger nuts on the bottom. I'm getting a bite on the camera rod, the center rod. It was just like just a little pecking. That could be a nuisance fish just pecking at the line, or it could be a turtle. I don't know. The cameras should be recording, hopefully. I think there's a fish on it. Yep. Feels catfishy. Catfish on the camera rod. That's the smallest catfish of the day. And it appears that the camera is no longer on. There's no lights on the LED. Okay. Well, 3 carp and as many catfish, 3 or 4 catfish, all on the bottom baits. Nothing wanted to touch that pop-up bait that I had the camera pointed at. I don't think that that's like necessarily conclusive evidence that the pop-up bait was a fail or anything, but that is what happened today. The opposite might happen tomorrow. but it was interesting nonetheless. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. See you on the next one.